It was a great pleasure to receive the invitation once again to participate in this wonderful event which deals with issues common to all humanity, yet focusing on the personality of possibly, in the eyes of many, one of the greatest of human beings who ever lived. It is obvious that when one travels in the Middle East, one will be confronted with the faith of the Prophet of Islam. When I first visited Egypt in 1977, I was unprepared to be confronted by another figure. In the mosque dating from the Fatimid period, I found a statement written on the wall ending with the words, Aliyan Waliyullah. At the time, I little knew how this personality would follow me, not only in my coming travels in the Middle East and surrounding areas, but in my personal life as well. Sometime later, I was sitting in a tea garden in southeastern Turkey listening as young Alevi students discussed Marxist theory. They laughed me to scorn when I said that Ali, peace be upon him, was an anarchist. It may have been naive, but I think not altogether wrong, for the personality of Ali, peace be upon him, undercuts both the hypocritical legal scholasticism that supports institutional exploitation of both human populations and the natural environment, as well as the strange fascination that masses show toward charismatic leaders of the day, be they political dictators or popular cult idols. This was but the beginning of my pilgrimage, and recently I was able to participate in the Hajj, to visit the house of God in Mecca, and continue in a more intense way my contemplation of these heaven-sent personalities, Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Ali, peace be upon him, under conditions that were especially adapted to make me receptive to the lessons of their lives and ministries. It's not inappropriate that a text comes to mind from a Greek philosopher. After all, Islamic civilization all but saved Greek philosophy during the Abbasid period through translations into Arabic. In the Laws of Plato, Book 3, there's a discussion between Megillus and Cleinias, in which they agree with the Athenian that good government resides in a balance between force and freedom, rather than any specific form of rule as such, whether tyranny or democracy. But they all agreed that that balance clearly depends on virtue and justice, words that are used in the text. But what was of especial interest to me was the fact that they considered virtue and justice not in terms of Platonic ideals, but embodied in the personality of the ruler and legislator. So my contemplation of ideals is not a Platonic one, but rather a response to Whitehead's philosophy, in which he speaks of the principle of misplaced concreteness. I think of misplaced abstraction. To divorce virtue and justice from the personality and make of them an abstraction is to make of them vehicles and justifications for oppression and exploitation. It is evident that not only ancient empires, but modern states employ such justifications. Even the forces of globalization rely on the ideals of virtue and justice rather so often than personal integrity. No matter what epistemological approach we take, there is no abstraction of virtue and justice. In Shiite theology, the attributes of God cannot be separated from His being. And in a similar way, virtue cannot be separated as an abstraction from the person. Personal integrity is the only place where virtue exists. The personalities of Muhammad and Ali, peace be upon them, as embodiments of virtue and justice, continue to provide viable models for human society. They are still relevant as long as they are not raised out of the human experience to create abstractions, legal abstractions, and as long as they are not raised out of human experience into the divinization of human figures. The former pitfall is unfortunately typical of much of Islam, whereas Christian civilization has tended to make a deity of Jesus, peace be upon him. But neither tradition is hopelessly lost. Both are blessed with the continuing opportunity offered by the personalities of prophets and divine guides, such as Muhammad, Ali, and Jesus, peace be upon them, to turn away from oppression and live lives of integrity and virtue and justice. The virtue and justice which these fragrant personalities embody in their lives and actions. Participation in the pilgrimage gave me opportunity for experiencing these holy personalities in a way that inspires integrity by impregnating the soul with the virtues of their character. I was once challenged by a Christian who bore witness to the change in life that he considered to take place as the individual who comes to Christ in faith. I do not doubt that that is true, but he made the claim that such a change does not take place in the Muslim pilgrim to Mecca. I disagreed at the time, and after having experienced the pilgrimage, I disagree even more sharply than before. While the realization of the oneness of God is the foundation of all true faith and spirituality, as well as the virtue and consequent justice that should arise from them, the direct contact on the pilgrimage with places imbued with a continuing memory of the blessed personalities is a powerful and changing influence on the individual. The human mind is strangely capable of bastardizing the principles of Christianity and Islam to foster the selfish interests of the individual, the nationalist state, or globalized business opportunity. But the confrontation with the personalities of Muhammad and Ali, peace be upon them, as the memory of their virtuous lives and acts lingers on in the places where they lived, works to counteract such misappropriation of faith principles. The experience is like a compass to correct the course of deviation from virtue. I was first impressed with this fact as I participated in and observed the gathering on the night between Thursday and Friday on the marble-paved court between the haram containing the tomb of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the cemetery containing the graves of many holy people. The occasion was the weekly recitation of the prayer of Kumail, and I describe it thus. I was forbidden to read my poem on the Hajj, merely because it is 140 pages long and the organizers hoped to get to bed to sleep before 3 a.m. But I read a few lines. Soon there were thousands of Shiites to share the darkness and softened air. The peace was tangible to feel, so that I wondered at what heel could think that violence must mate with Islam in sectary state. No crowd on western frontier could match the quiet peace that stood beside Muhammad's tomb and near the blessed remains of near and dear. Television technology spread this message of peace throughout the world as Iranian television recorded the events. Despite the technology, the same issues remain. And I am willing to believe that both the Saudi organizers of the pilgrimage and the Iranian observers participated in the realization that virtue must be personal integrity rather than mere abstraction. The personality of Ali ibn Abu Talib, peace be upon him, is most evident in that supplication once given to Kumail, who had requested that a prayer be given him that should give his heart tranquility. The holy Imam imbued this supplication with the very tranquility of his own heart. As we participate in that supplication, we participate in the personality that has given the principles of virtue by which justice and prosperity may be attained. These three alternatives began to crystallize in my mind in Medina as I visited spot after spot. The contrast between abstraction or deification that divorces virtue and the power of virtue as it appears in the personality of the virtuous one. Jesus, peace be upon him, was born a refugee under the date palm. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born to be an orphan. But Ali, peace be upon him, was born in the Kaaba. As I stood for the first time looking at the Kaaba, I suddenly recognized the place as being most familiar. That stone structure, the simple chamber, is that inner chamber of every human heart, to which we flee from day to day in times of trouble, in times of joy. We seek that secret chamber. And that secret chamber is the chamber in which the personality of Ali, peace be upon him, is born. When the virtues of that personality are born in the human heart, the heart of every person, no matter what his religious background, these virtues of the personality of Ali, we will find that we need no new laws. They already exist in the foundations of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and many another world religious tradition. We do not need new idols, new gods. We need the personal integrity that the personality of Ali, peace be upon him, extends to each of us, born in the Kaaba as he was, to be born in the human heart, a living model of a new and better human being and a new and better society. The world needs a return to the Kaaba, a pilgrimage to faith.